Hey, welcome to Point Black. Boy, I got a show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. What if I told you I was driving down a country road and this beam of light hit my car, and I got out of the car and they beamed me up, took a look at me, examined me, and sent me back down, threw me back down, and told you that it was some aliens that did that to me? You would say, oh boy, Pruitt, that he's been drinking too much coffee. And there's something in that coffee. Well, listen, you know there's been a lot of talk about unidentified flying objects, UFO. We've all heard about Roswell and see all sort of stuff on the news and this and that. But a lot of us listen to that and probably take it for granted. A lot of us listen to it and probably say, man, this is some stuff. This ain't happening. A lot of folks say this and that. And a lot of folks are just curious, just want to know what is really going on. Is there a source that we can depend on? Is there a source at minimum that has a different perspective other than what we hear on the news, what we see on TV, and what we talk about in the bars, the clubs, and the churches, at the poker game, or wherever it is? Is there a source? Ladies and gentlemen, I think I got a source that has a different perspective on this. And I want to introduce you to Ilia Rashad Muhammad. He's an educator. He's an author. He's a researcher. He's an urban gardener. He's a beekeeper. And he's based out of the great city of Memphis, Tennessee. He's recognized for his dynamic teaching and advocacy work, especially in uplifting literacy rates among Black youth. Brother Muhammad is also known for his association with the Nation of Islam, where he serves in the Ministry of Education and is an active part of the NOI research group. That's right, he's a researcher. He's here today to share with us a documentary that he has prepared, a film. And ladies and gentlemen, it is one that I think we all need to see. He's going to talk a little bit about what's in it. It is titled Answered: The Battle in the Sky, UFOs Identified and Demystified. You hear that? Demystified. Brother Muhammad, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brother Adolphus, man. It's my pleasure to be here, big brother.
Hey, listen now. I just told the folks I've been beamed up, so you're gonna have to help me out now. They don't believe me, but you're gonna have to help me out.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're here, as you stated, to clarify and demystify this very misunderstood subject matter. So this is what we deal with. This is what we put a lot of research into, and this is what we know a lot about. And that's why we're happy to be on your show, big brother.
So, hey, let's start off this way. I gave them a little background, but just give me some background as to why you decided to do this documentary, and talk a little bit about what it is.
Certainly. Again, the documentary is titled Answered. It's a series of documentaries. This is part 3 that we're going to be screening in St. Louis on November 15th. But the documentary series is called Answered. This particular one is part 3, which is subtitled The Battle in the Sky. And this series heavily answers the truth about the UFO phenomena, because unlike any other scholars, any other leaders, other UFO researchers, other filmmakers and whatnot, we are the ones who actually get to the source of this phenomena. And that's what others seem like they're afraid to deal with, because when you deal with the source of the modern day UFO phenomena, if you take an objective study to it, it'll have to lead you to the Nation of Islam in the early 1930s. And that's what nobody wants to talk about. And that's what we're here to talk about.
Okay, well, listen, we're gonna start with the 1930s. Bring me up this. I wasn't. Now, I'll be honest, ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't here in 1930. I'm not that far from there, but I wasn't here in 1930. But bring us. Go ahead, brother Muhammad, and folks. Let me say this, because you know me. I will try to inject some humor into the conversation, only just to make sure that you're still listening. But we're gonna have a real serious conversation. This guest is a bona fide real researcher. He does his homework, and you all know I love people that do their homework. So just sit back and relax, and let's let brother Muhammad bring us up to speed. So, Brother Muhammad, you can start in 1930. You can start where you think you need to start, but won't you educate us? Go ahead and educate us.
That's perfectly fine. As you may or may not know, I'm not certain, the Nation of Islam's early roots start in 1930 with the coming of Master Fard Muhammad. This is the man who founded the Nation of Islam and who taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad everything he needed to build the Nation of Islam. And it was this man, this mysterious man known as Master Fard Muhammad, who introduced this reality and was teaching it to the early Nation of Islam in the early 1930s. Not only was he teaching it, but sometime either in or after 1931, he literally showed it to Elijah Muhammad. And this has been an intricate part of the Nation of Islam's teachings ever since we've been here. It's been over 90 years. But keep in mind, Brother Adolphus, this is before any so-called UFO talk. This is before any mass sightings of flying saucers or government investigations, and before Roswell and all of this type of stuff. But it was the Nation of Islam that was teaching about this huge circular craft that we call the mother wheel or the mother plane, and it's accompanying 1,500 smaller wheel-shaped planes that are often now called UFOs. So this has been the earliest Nation of Islam teaching that it sounded so strange in the 1930s because there were no sightings at that time, that the authorities and the leaders called us a voodoo cult. They literally labeled the Nation of Islam as a voodoo cult because of this kind of strange teaching. But it wasn't until several years later when these wheels or disc-shaped objects started to be seen more and more. And now when they started to encounter these things, they traced it. When I say they, I'm talking about the government traced it to the Nation of Islam in 1942. And they arrested the Honorable Elijah Muhammad along with 80 plus other members of the Nation of Islam. This is the FBI arresting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and members of the Nation of Islam. And this is on government record now and historical record. And when they questioned Elijah Muhammad, they were questioning him about these wheels or these, what they call UFOs now, because at that time he was the only one on record teaching about this reality. So when the government encountered these wheels for themselves, now they had to arrest and try to silence the one man who knew all about these things and was on record for teaching it. So I know I'm talking a lot, but to try to put it in a nutshell, that's the beginning of what we call the modern UFO phenomena. It all starts with the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
And just quick question. Now, this is in 42. They arrest him and 80 other members because you all were teaching and exposing folks to this phenomenon which we call UFOs. What did they just question him? Did they try to charge him? What was the outcome?
Thank you. Well, they were questioning him about this along with other things, but this was a serious concern because prior to them arresting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the U.S. Army had encountered these strange objects over Los Angeles in February of 42, that same year. This is about 2.5 months prior to them arresting him. And after the U.S. Armed Forces encountered these wheel-shaped planes over Los Angeles, they were startled. They were trying to find out if this was something that belonged to a foreign adversary like Japan or Germany or somebody. But all their research led to the fact that the Nation of Islam, led by Elijah Muhammad, were the only ones on record for teaching about the exact planes and craft that they saw and encountered over LA.
Hey, brother,
That's
brother,
what.
brother Muhammad, hold it, put a pin in it right there, because we're going to take a quick break. Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with more on Point Black. We're talking about Answered. And you can visualize it and see it and hear about it on Saturday, November the 15th at Harris-Stowe State University in the auditorium. We'll be right back. And we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, we have as a guest Ilia Rashad Muhammad. He is an independent documentary filmmaker with the Nation of Islam. He's a researcher. He's an urban farmer. He's everything and anything that we need to know. But the one thing we're talking about today is Answered. Part 3, the battle in the sky, where we're going to demystify this issue about UFO. Brother Muhammad, go ahead. You were making a point when I cut you off.
Yes, because you had asked about what had continued to take place after they had arrested Elijah Muhammad.
Right.
Well, it was after they arrested and questioned him that they decided it was best to lock up the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for almost 5 years. And the reason they wanted him off of the streets is because they did not want this kind of teaching reaching the masses of our people, or for the American people for that matter, because if Elijah Muhammad is correct about these crafts, then he is correct about the God that showed him these crafts. And that opens up a can of worms, a can of information that nobody wants to deal with, because it would literally upset the world of religion, the world of politics and economics, the world of education, and the world of science, because the world would have to bear witness that Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Farrakhan are 1,000% right and exact. And I don't think anybody wants to do that. And this is why, after they arrested him and locked him up and questioned him about these crafts, the U.S. government projected an all-out misinformation campaign to make sure that this topic, as it relates to UFOs and its relationship to the Nation of Islam, they want to make sure that this topic is never understood or known to the people. And that's why there has been an outright, decades-long cover-up ever since. And I'll tell you what, Brother Adolphus, I, as a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the Nation of Islam, I literally have scholars and leaders afraid to sit down and intelligently discuss this fundamental topic with me or other students of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. This is a reality. We've been on this thing for years. And I tell you, from the political leaders to the religious leaders, it's a topic that has been placed above top secret, and they are afraid to deal with it. And this is why we felt necessary to produce our book, which is titled UFOs and the Nation of Islam. And we felt it necessary to produce these documentaries, Answered, The Battle in the Sky. And that's what we're bringing to St. Louis on November 15th at Harris State University. And we encourage the public to come, bring your questions. If you are skeptical, if you're a critical thinker, we encourage you to come, because what we're saying is not something that's some religious belief. No, we're providing actual facts, and we are daring the scholars, the educators, and the leaders to try to contend with the truth that we're providing.
And so when
that's
you
just
say,
how serious this is.
Yeah, so when you say answer, give me an example of one significant piece in the documentary that would probably shock most of us to hear about.
Well, this particular one that we're watching, which is part 3 of Answered, and you don't have to have watched the previous ones in order to get part 3, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But part 3, subtitled The Battle in the Sky, one thing that we deal with that shocks people is part of what I was mentioning earlier about how the FBI under the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration literally had the Honorable Elijah Muhammad arrested largely because of the nation's connection to these planes, because Elijah Muhammad has the answer to this. He and the Nation of Islam answered the questions about the so-called UFO phenomena before the world even had questions about them. And so this type of history, which is documented history, it's documented in the governmental FBI files, it's documented in the historical accounts, it's documented in even some of the police reports, and even in the early newspapers from the 1930s and 1940s. Yet, even though it is documented for any observable researcher to fact check, we notice how it seems like all the leaders almost strategically avoid dealing with this most important part of the UFO phenomena. And again, we know exactly why. It is because it proves, not with some theories, but it proves with facts that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Farrakhan know exactly what the heck they're talking about. And it would be wise if we would stand with those who know what they're talking about.
You know, I did a little research, and it's interesting because they got these top key UFO case studies. Of course, they start with Roswell incident in 1947, and they talk about the Kenneth Arnold sighting in 1947. They talk about the Lubbock, Texas lights in 51, and Washington, D.C. in 52, and in Oregon in 1950, and in Betty and Bernie Hill abduction in 1961. Then they got one in Pennsylvania in 65, and Ohio in 1973, and 75, and the U.S. Nimitz. This is a U.S. Navy pilots in 2004 off of California, and so they go on and on. But it is interesting that none of this, and they released all these documents, the FBI, and they call themselves releasing all of the studies and the reports about UFOs and this and that, but nothing I was able to find that would pop up where they talk about the fact that they arrested the Nation of Islam leader and his members because they were talking about this issue as far back 5 years before Roswell even took place in
Right.
42. And so I just find that so interesting. And so let me ask you, has the government tried to dispute this notion that or this research or exclamation that you all are saying occurred? Are they disputing it?
I'll tell you again, when it comes to this topic, the government, its leaders, their scholars, this is a topic that they are not even allowed to deal with in public.
Oh, wow.
It's called a conspiracy of silence. A conspiracy of silence is when there is a collective agreement by some type of group or government agency not to ever publicly disclose a certain topic. This is why, even though we have been telling the world and teaching the same thing since the early 1930s, that's over 90 years, teaching and proving this truth, you'll notice that whenever you hear anything about so-called UFOs or UAP, they are not even allowed to include us in the discussion. That's just how powerful this is, where you have government leaders afraid to engage in an intelligent dialogue with us. Now, I'm just one student of Minister Farrakhan. I'm an educator. I'm a public school teacher. And even somebody like me who represents Minister Farrakhan on these type of topics have government leaders afraid to deal with me, have scholars afraid to deal with me. But it's because we have the truth, and this is what we want to present and showcase to the people in St. Louis. Again, whether they are skeptics, whether they are already believers, whether they are just curious, whether you hate the nation, we still encourage you to come out because what we have, again, is provable.
You know what's interesting is that and I'm presupposing that some folks with the government and with the military and this and that would say, "Oh well, we don't want to. We're not going to deny or affirm that because we don't want to give the nation any credibility, or we don't want to highlight any of this stuff that deals with the Nation of Islam because we all understand how they feel about the nation." Do you think that that is part of their motivation for this wall of silence, or you think it's something else?
It's a part of it, but this conspiracy of silence, and when it comes to this topic of UFOs and its relationship with the Nation of Islam, this is a matter of national security from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to ever kind of comb through the declassified FBI files of the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you will find where the FBI perceives our teachings about these wheel-shaped craft as a matter of national security. This is why they locked him up in the first place. Why the heck are you going to lock up an unarmed black man who teaches his followers not to carry any arms of any kind, but because of the truth he speaks, the FBI saw fit to lock this man up for 5 years, particularly to keep his voice and the truth that he speaks from reaching the masses of the people. That is a continuation. That is something that is continued to this day. It's a continued misinformation campaign against both UFOs and the Nation of Islam.
And Brother Muhammad, you said there's some books published on this matter also that you guys published. You want to talk about that, to inform the public about we want them to come see the documentary, but again, there's written material on this that they can have access to.
Oh yes, I'm the author of the book UFOs and the Nation of Islam. We published that back in 2013, and I'll tell you, brother Adolphus, this has been a game changer. When we published this, man, it literally shook up the UFO research community, and they even put me on these watch lists, FBI and anti-Semitic watch lists, the ADL and these powerful Zionist groups that work with law enforcement and agencies. They put me on these lists just because of the truth of what I published. I've had other books that I've published that have been recently banned from Amazon, not because of anything vulgar or anything wrong, but because this kind of truth goes against their agenda, and it exposes the truth about God. It exposes the truth about Satan. It exposes the truth about history. It exposes the truth about the UFO phenomena. It exposes the truth and gives us better understanding of certain matters that are going on in the world today. And it shows and proves, again, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan have been right and exact in what they have been warning the people about going back as early as 1930. So we're at a day and time when the government is just now admitting not the full truth. They're just now admitting that these planes exist, which proves that they've been lying their butts off for the past 80 years, 80 plus years. So we don't have to rely on government to try to disclose the truth about these crafts that they call UFOs. The Nation of Islam answers that.
So our public, the listeners, we have people who believe in the nation. We have people who of other religious organizations who take a different position. And I had Brother Donald Muhammad on here to help explain it. There ain't but one God, and the Nation of Islam is not necessarily anti-Baptist or any of these other things. But for some reason or other, people find the rationale to be anti against the nation. So what would you say to them to say, listen, you're not trying to indoctrinate them or pull them into the nation. You're not trying to change their faith. You're basically saying you have some information that you believe to be credible, that they should know about, and then from there they can make their own judgment. So how should we approach them, or what would you say to them to sort of get that point across? I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but I just think that we have to have that sort of conversation.
That's a very, very important point. And it is a conversation that has to be had. Because look here, all of the major faith traditions and religions, whether it's Jewish, Hebrew, whether Christian or Muslim, and the different denominations therein, all of the major religions and the scriptures of these religions foretell of God and his angels operating using these flying vessels that the Nation of Islam is just telling the world that, look, God is fulfilling what he said he was going to do anyway. Because you can be a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim and say you believe in your scriptures, be it the Torah or the Old Testament or the New Testament Gospels or the Holy Quran. You can't be a believer in these scriptures and try to ignore the fact that God says he's going to come and he's going to use some flying craft shaped like wheels or described in other places in the scriptures as flying chariots described in the New Testament as the New Jerusalem, the city of the living God, a heavenly city, described in the Holy Quran as God's heavenly throne of power that resides over the waters. So there's no way that religious folk can get away with this reality when all of the scriptures we say we believe in point to the exact thing that the Nation of Islam happens to be proving. We're just showing and proving that all the stuff you've been reading about, all of those prophecies that you've been preaching about, we're just showcasing the reality and the fulfillment of these prophecies.
So should let's just say this. Let's just say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that UFOs exist. Because I'd be one to say that I believe that there's higher life and higher power, and I don't believe Earth and people on Earth, we the only living things that exist in a universe with billions of stars, billions and billions of stars, billions of light years away, and for some reason or another, God made us and nothing else, nowhere else, but he created all these stars so that we can have something beautiful to look up in the night sky. I don't buy that. But how do we try to explain to our listeners that they should not be leery of discussions like this because of the possibility that life does exist somewhere else, and they should not be, should I say, they should not blind themselves to that thought that life doesn't exist somewhere else.
Right. This is a problem not just in religion. This is a problem with people in general. I think in psychology they call it cognitive dissonance. That's when we refuse to accept facts or truth just because it goes against something that we previously believed. You know, we don't want to acknowledge that maybe we've not believed the right thing or our belief system might be flawed. So we would often reject any facts or truth that disturb our comfortability in believing whatever we believe. That's a problem in religion. That's a problem in education. That's a problem in politics. It's a problem almost in human nature. So when it comes to this topic of UFOs and the Nation of Islam, we would ask, as the scriptures say, come, just let us reason together. And most people, even intelligent people, even well-educated people who may be somewhat familiar with the Nation of Islam, most people have no clue that the nation is inherently involved with what the world calls the UFO phenomena, because they've never even had the audacity to question us about it. And this is why I really appreciate you, Brother Adolphus, because you are doing what main high-paid journalists and leaders refuse to do. You are having an intelligent dialogue. You are asking intelligent questions, and that's all we ask. Whether you are a different religious persuasion or political ideology, it matters not. We just want you to reason. If you can think, and if you can think critically, if you can ask questions and you're unafraid to ask us questions, then we implore you to just come and see what we have to say. And I trust that you will be more than intrigued by the results.
We're going to take, Brother Muhammad, we're going to take another break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back with more on Point Blank. We're talking about Answer, the battle in the sky, UFOs identified and demystified. We'll be right back. And we are back. Hey, Brother Muhammad, can we,
yes,
let's talk a little bit more about the documentary. How much information about about what people are going to find out can we talk about? How do we talk about this in a way? We want people to come. We want them to hear it. But how do we tease them about what this UFO and the information you got to share?
Well, if we start with the basic facts, the fact that whether we want to believe or not, this topic of both UFOs and the Nation of Islam are topics that have been placed at the highest level of government's national security. As intelligent thinking people, we should ask ourselves why. And if the Nation of Islam continues to make these very bold claims that we have the answer to this phenomena, that world governments and militaries pretend that they are baffled by, then why not question us in public? If you think we're wrong, how about proving that in public? We've been holding the same position for over 90 years, and we're waiting on the most powerful government and the wisest scholars to try to contend with us. And I tell you, Brother Adolphus, ain't nobody tried yet. So at the very least.
So what people say, give us some evidence. What would you deem to be evidence?
Look at historical records. The fact that your FBI documents prove to you that they are concerned about Elijah Muhammad's connection to these wheels, the FBI is not going to spend your taxpayer dollars and decades of misinformation to try to keep you away from something that don't exist. I mean, that's common sense right there. And besides, your taxpayer dollars are going to try to keep the public away from this truth. So again, the proof is there. It's historical proof. It's government documents, historical documents. And if you or the public want proof, hell, check out the documents that we're pointing you to first.
Yeah, but
before you try to argue.
Yeah, I guess the other side of it would be is that if the documents exist, would they prove that UFOs exist, or would they prove that you all were just talking about the fact that they exist as far back as 1942?
Oh, it proves, look, the documents prove beyond the fact that these planes exist. Because, look, even modern statistics and facts show that hundreds of millions of people have seen these. Many have recorded it. There have been several hundreds, even thousands of reported cases. And this is just in the last few years. So to try to say that these planes don't exist would be as crazy as saying that airplanes don't exist. Because too many people have seen them.
So I guess if they say that there's thousands of sightings and documents that say that these sightings have happened, then the question would be is what's in the documentary that is different or new versus what everybody what already exists.
Excellent. What we do in the documentary and in our other resources in the book is that we give you clarity and understanding about the who, what, when, where, how, and why as it relates to these crafts. You know, in truth, it's not even a question of whether these planes exist or not. That's not even an argument anymore. The argument or the question is, what are they? Whose are they? Why are they here? What are their intents and purposes? Where do they come from? And so that's what we answer in the Nation of Islam.
So I got you. So participating or looking at the documentary, you can get the answers to those questions.
Absolutely.
Got it.
And again, the nation has been answering these for over 90 years. That's the trip part about it.
And so for somebody, and would the books answer those questions also?
Absolutely. The book UFOs and the Nation of Islam, which for the time being is still available on Amazon, the book answers those questions clearly. We have hundreds of footnotes and citations so that you can know when and where we got our information from, so that you don't think that we're just making up something.
Right.
Because we expect people to be critical of what we say.
So
we
let me ask you,
expect people to scrutinize us.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: what are they? I'm gonna be at the viewing, but what are they? I'm dying to understand what are they. I believe they exist, but what are they? Is it BJ the DJ in a new uniform, Dr. BJ the BJ in a new uniform,
Yes.
or do they look like me or Vidal or Courtney? What are they?
Come on.
What are they?
Excellent. And I'll give a very simple response, but even in this simple response, it answers a whole lot of that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad let us know that these crafts, one, are man-made. They are made by humans on this earth. They are not from outer space. They are not from some other planet, even though we do believe that there is life on other planets.
Sure.
But these crafts are not from any other planet, but they are from right here on this earth, made by people. However, it is done by, it was built somewhat secretly. It took a process of about 20 years, and it took a workforce of about 20 to 25,000 people working on this craft and the smaller craft. They didn't all know what they were working on, and it lifted in 1929. But again, the main part that we can disclose right now is that these crafts are not from outer space. These are not from some alien origin, but they're made right here on this earth. And the person responsible for their construction is the same man that taught Elijah Muhammad and showed him this in the early 1930s, before there was ever a thing called a UFO phenomenon.
So it ain't. So we're gonna have to wrap up with this one. But it ain't Elon Musk. So it ain't Elon Musk. Huh?
No, Elon Musk got some stuff out there, but these crafts don't belong to Elon.
So this is not a flying Tesla. I'm disappointed now, because I was been saving my pennies up to get me one of the flying Teslas. But hey, brother Muhammad, I look forward to seeing you on Saturday, November the 15th. Doors open up at 3 p.m. and show starts at 4 at Harris-Stowe State University. So we can take a look at Answer 3, The Battle in the Sky, UFOs Identified and Demystified. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate the conversation, and I look forward to seeing you on Saturday the 15th.
Much love, much love.
Take care, man.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.